But none of that gets framed as aggression. It gets framed as history happening. As if conquest is only conquest when Europeans do it, and everything else is just a cultural exchange program with swords. By the time the Crusades roll around, Jerusalem hadn't been Christian for centuries. Christians living under Muslim rule weren't equals, they were tolerated dependents. Dhimmis. Protected, sure, like livestock is protected as long as it pays its tax and doesn't get uppity. Every now and then, protection failed. Massacres happened, churches were burned, holy sites vandalized, pilgrimage routes turned into extortion rackets. This wasn't some secret, people knew. Refugees and stories traveled. The Crusades were reactive. Late, desperate, and not at all unprovoked. The Byzantine Empire, Christian, battered, bleeding, didn't call the West because it was bored. It called because it was getting eaten alive, piece by piece. When the Pope said, hey, maybe we should do something, it wasn't a Marvel villain monologue. It was more like a guy yelling, "They're at the door, you idiots, Avengers assemble." Now, did Crusaders commit atrocities? Of course they did. Human beings with weapons always do. You don't march tens of thousands of illiterate, hungry, terrified men across continents and expect polite conversation. War is ugly. But the idea that brutality somehow invalidates causation is laughable. If brutality disqualifies self-defense, then self-defense has never existed in human history. What really grinds my gears is the selective outrage. The centuries of conquest before the Crusades. Shrug. The slave raids that dragged Europeans off to markets in North Africa and the Middle East. Footnote. The constant pressure on Europe's borders. Background noise. But when Europe finally snaps, badly, violently, it's suddenly the original sin of Western civilization. After centuries of invasion, raids, humiliation, and the slow erasure of a civilization, the very act of standing up, of saying enough, was profoundly human. It was brave, it was defiant, it was heroic.